Hi, everyone. Shayna J here with Urban Wisdom. And Tom Garcia and I have gotten together again and want to share some really good stuff with you. So, Dr. Tom is here, the shamans with the sacred fire. And so, hi, welcome, and thank
Hey,
you for
Donna.
joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad to be here with you and
It's
everybody
so,
else.
yeah, it's so fun to be with you.
Yeah, you as well.
So you have a new program coming up, and I'm excited about it. And that's kind of what spurred this conversation. And so I want you to share that. But first, I'd love for you to share like a position. Who is this program for? Who do you expect to really show up, be
Hmm.
engaged, follow through, do really do the work that you're offering?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so I have followers from all over the world, which isn't to say that the whole world's following me. I just have people in different places in the world,
Oh,
Australia and Europe and South America, here in the United States, Canada. And what's so my guidance, my guides told me years ago, as I began my work, which I didn't even know was my work until, I was into it a ways. They said, the messages we give you, you must share. And you're going to touch the hearts and minds of millions of people around the world. And what I realize in a very practical way is that the people, and this is what's occurring, is the people that I work with have a big reach. They're influencers. So if I touch one person who has a following of 1,000 or 10,000 or more, that's how I can reach more people. And so that's one of my clients, that's part of my clientele, people like that. I see entrepreneurs, professionals, entrepreneurs from all walks, professionals, medical doctors, chiropractors, healers, people who are working in the healing profession, artists. And the common theme in the people that I work with is most of them are successful or very successful. And they're reaching for something deeper, even in their success, their monetary success or the level of recognition they have, and validation. They're reaching for something deeper because I would say in every case, what they do is what's underneath it's what's underneath what they do that they're trying to get to, which is really inspiring people and opening people's minds and hearts through all various avenues, whether
mm,
it's entrepreneurial, in medical or professional practices, through their art, through their work, just their work, whatever it is. So the people that I'm attracting, and it's, thank God, the people that I'm attracting are people that are serious about getting down to it, because that's what I'm about. I'm kind of like this. I'm like, I just want it straight, like cranberry juice, undiluted, unsweetened, pure. That's
just
how I
give it
want it.
to me.
That's how I deliver it.
Yeah.
And one of my criteria, the top of my list criteria is you must be a pleasure for me to work with.
I
Which
love
sounds
that.
really crazy, like arrogant, but it's not. It's just I have been to the fire with people because I work intimately with people at the fire, one-on-one in small groups. And why the fire? That's a whole nother conversation we can have, but it's a powerful element. I create sacred space, it's ceremonial. And when we drop in, that's where the work really begins.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no kidding, you know, and cut into the heart quickly. So I'll give you a contrast, something that contrasted for me in just in what's out there in the world. I say lots of programs out there come in through the mental arena. They handle the mind and address, the didactic things, lists and plans and programs and
Strategies.
such,
Yeah.
with the intention to touch something emotional, to stir people. and the desire that, the final desire to be to move them spiritually, to touch their spirit. And where I come in is I come in at the level of spirit. I go right there.
Yeah.
And we put the mental over here and the emotional over there, not to exclude, just to say, hold your horses, we're going in.
It's a different package that way.
Yeah. And it goes deep, it goes fast, and I love it. And the people I work with, they're like, they love it. Like this one guy, for example, he's like, nobody talks to me like that. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, but I love it. It's like, good, because we're not fooling around here.
Right.
So that's just to kind of give you a sense of the attraction I hold for certain people that are ready to go to work. And whether you're a multimillionaire or you're on the ropes, but you're serious about your work, it's a level playing field at the fire. And
Yeah.
I'm the agent, I'm the guy on the ground, and I master that space. I say that with complete humbleness and total confidence. That's my space.
Absolutely. It's
Anyone who's been with me at the fire will tell you that.
Yeah.
They get it. And I get it.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. That deep hunger where, the term used to be called existential suffering. You just know something is not right, and you can fix it if you just tap in to that deep well that everyone has.
Yes.
And have a guide like yourself that's willing to be completely raw and honest with them in that space.
Yeah.
Something's going to pop.
Yeah. I go toe to toe
Yeah.
in a loving, deeply respectful way. And there's something else. It escaped me. It'll come back.
It'll come back. Yeah.
We're on track. I mean, we're in the arena right now.
Absolutely. So just in that description, this whole space has become sacred and beautiful in the fires here, the elements are here. And you and I are very much on the same page when we do our work. I do the same thing. I go to spirit first because I know, like you stated, everything out there, not everything, but a very big majority of what's out there and available is up here.
Yeah.
Or here. But I love bringing the two together, and that's what you do as well. Bring the two together and have it mean something a lot different than what they thought it meant when they came in.
Yeah. Yeah. In the mainstream, I think we assiduously avoid speaking to that spiritual part. Like we don't want to step on people's religious toes, their faith, the question, are you religious or spiritual, to me is like, don't ask me that question because I'm not going to answer. I've thought about this. It's like, it's not a valid question, but, and the call that you and I both hear, and I know others on this call, those that are listening, the call is to step in to the spiritual arena, fully,
yeah,
like ready for engagement, not battle, engagement.
Yeah.
To connect deeply with what matters most in people's lives. And that's really where I go. It's like, help people to find their authentic voice.
Yeah.
And it's not by not by overlaying practices and principles, and there are those. That's not to denigrate any of that, because there are those in my work. I mean, those materials, but to take things away so there's space, so we're information junkies.
That's exactly what I say.
Information junkies, right? And
we're so much the same.
When we come to the fire, when I do fire ceremony with people via Zoom, it's to take things off their plate so they can begin to see what the obstacles have been to their awareness, to their experience, and to bring them present.
Yeah.
Very challenging in our culture. We
Very.
step over the present moment. We talk about the present moment. We do
Right.
all kinds of things except be present to the moment.
Exactly. And mostly I think that we've learned to gear away from the present moment because it is too painful. Is that when you get there and you really do feel how raw and vulnerable you are, you, unless you have a guide, you don't know what to do with that. So you push it down. But when you're at the fire, and with you as the guide, or with me as the guide, it's all about, okay, let's go there.
Yeah.
Even more, and drop the resistance.
Mhm.
And let yourself be in the moment, no matter what you're seeing or feeling, and just express it, or whatever we're doing in the moment with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think we all inherently have that capacity, but it's gotten so obscured and papered over that it's helpful. I mean, I've had lots of mentors and teachers over the course of my life, like you have as well. But the last 13 or so years of my deepest work has not been via a physical teacher. I have non-physical teachers. And I even said several years back, I said, I think I'm ready for a teacher now. Like, I'm ready. And my guide said, we're your teachers.
That's right.
Okay. And then paradoxically enough, people started showing up in my life who were very clear, like you and I came back into connection, very clearly a teacher. And, we have a powerful connection, and others have. I am surrounded by people physically, which is a beautiful thing.
It is so beautiful.
To be aware of that. I'm just surrounded by so much support, people who are loving and supportive of me. In addition to I go like this, like they're behind me.
Yeah.
My guidance,
Right.
really strong, and I feel that strong protection.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's how I say it too. They're right there.
yeah. So I want to give you an example of someone that I've worked with who actually lost her voice about 5 years ago. Amazing woman, incredibly successful, has a huge following in the work that she does. And we were on a call, having a conversation, and in my mind, I'm kind of like wondering, where is this going to go now? Because we've gone to some deep places, and all of a sudden, we got on this track around relationship. And I asked a question, and she said, I think there's another question I need to answer before that. So we went there. So, without specifics, I mean, you can kind of see how things unfold in this really magical way.
Mhm.
And we arrived at a place where she got in touch with when the loss of her voice actually happened.
Wow.
It was incredibly healing, and her voice began to come back.
Oh
Now
my.
it's healing of the physical, the components of her voice box, the anatomy, but her physical voice is coming back, but there's also greater clarity in her voice in terms of what her deeper work is that underscores the work she does and the people she serves. So to me, it was like the plainest metaphor for what it means to find your authentic voice.
Wow.
The voice comes from here, and the voice that comes through you,
True.
to not obstruct that vessel that that we are, the vessel that we are, to not be an obstruction to the expression of our authentic truth, the truth of who we are.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. And so she actually healed her voice.
Yes. And I made it clear she did it. I mean, we had that conversation. I'm like, you know what? I helped, certainly, and I asked great questions, but she did the healing. And that's something distinct in what I do also. And I think for you as well, in that we empower people to heal themselves. Like in the shamanic world, there's shamans do all kinds of things, journeying and soul retrieval and extractions and, removing entities and stuff like that. And I'm like, not my gig. I can do lots of stuff like that, but that's not my focal point. My focal point is empowering you to retrieve your own soul, for you to do the work, to be
Yeah.
a clear vessel, and that dark energies, whatever you might call them, find no purchase. They find no place to hold because you're clear, you're clean, and to engage the practices that support that. And I've seen that over and over again with people, that when they're empowered, they know they didn't have to go to their shaman to get the work done, although they could, but they don't have to because they can do it themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's opening the door wide enough that they continue to be fearless with themselves.
Exactly. That's very good.
Yeah.
To step into, to face the fear down. I mean, not to face it down like a confrontation, but just to stand in the presence of it.
Right.
What I say, drop your shield, lay down your sword, and come undefended.
Yeah.
Before your God.
Yeah, when it's so funny. After I came back from India one time, and I was in my group, and I was just so blissed out, blissed in, and I was sharing some story with the group, and I said, this is the work of our true spirit. It's not an ego doing the work. It's the spirit inside coming out so we can continually recognize it. And I said, if that's all you got, bring it on, and everybody in the room went, no, 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 no. And I was like, what's wrong? They go, we don't want any more bad stuff. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do I look like I'm having a hard time here? Bring it on. It's like the best of you is about to be seen by you. If you let it come, just bring it, and tell spirit, don't hold out. Come on, bring it on, And after I explained it like that, they were like kind of dumbfounded as to, wow, okay,
Well, that scares the crap out of the ego.
It does.
It was like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
And the ego, God bless our egos. You just have to sort of put your arm around its shoulder and say, come over here, because I have work to do. You stay there.
Yeah. But what's exciting, is that you mentioned something about doing our spiritual work. And, it's like we start, well, at least I did in the late 90s, really strongly. That's all I wanted, was the connection with spirit. And then it kind of got very mental from teachers. You're right. It got very mental, strategic, categorized, all of that good stuff. It was great stuff. But I never went that way. I mean, I had a few teachers that I appreciated, like Wayne Dyer, because I actually saw Wayne Dyer in Sedona when he had his awakening.
Oh, wow.
He was scheduled for a talk in Sedona, and I was guided to go. We want you to hear Wayne Dyer. I was like, I don't want to hear another teacher, who's not spiritual. I don't want to hear that head stuff, And he comes out and he could hardly talk. He was so much in bliss and so much I could feel it. His energy was huge and very, very strong. And he stood there and he said, I don't know why I'm here.
Oh my, for Wayne Dyer to not have any words is like phenomenal.
He was in the midst of it, and it was shifting him. And that's what happens when you have a true awakening. The mind goes way in the background, very, very silent. You know this. And then all of a sudden, what there is to say, what you thought you knew isn't there. And what you know starts to come out very slowly, very slowly. So, I mean, he was just beautiful. So from then on, he started writing different and everything. All of his speeches were different from then on. It was like, okay, love you, Wayne. Keep doing your thing. You got it. And so the point I want to make, though, is that we're now this is so funny, because at the onset in the late 90s, I heard this fact. I don't know how true it is, and I don't know how to scientifically prove it, but I heard this, that we were about 10% of the population was spiritual, that was really digging in and really opening up and really allowing the mind to go silent and not, learning to not be afraid of it and all of that. And then recently, you know what I heard? I heard we're at 62% light. More people are bringing in the light, and because they're connected to their own spirit, their own vibration. And that is our population now. And I'm like, oh, we've grown a lot in 25 years for me. And coming up in April, it's my 25th year of when I fell. So,
Oh my. Mm-hmm.
Over 60% of people that are holding light, that's pretty wonderful and exciting.
Yeah. And when I hear numbers like that, it's like, boy, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. All I know is the insistence of the call that I've received that came to me 12, 13 years ago. When I was contacted, and it's like by the back of the neck, out in the land, making fire, doing ceremony. It's like, where's this coming from? This was not, I didn't do this, and it's only deepened, which is what I wanted, that's the point I'm trying to make, is the call has been loud and clear, and my own work has only deepened, and the urgency to share it with other people has become much greater.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So let's go there. You've gone through quite a process this year, and I think you've evolved to a place where you're really doing something very special for our fall, right? So
Yes.
let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us about where you've come to.
Yeah, so it's still a work in progress. One of the things I do is for over 2 years, I've been writing a weekly newsletter, and they're pithy, and I really boil it down. So I'm not just going on and on. Sometimes I read things that other folks write, and I'm like, long after I've lost interest, I see they're still going on and on. I try not to do that. What I'm saying is, for over 2 years, I've been writing a newsletter, which has helped me to find my voice, the voice that goes out and also comes through. And so clarifying my message. What's my message? Well, it's really about awakening, but that's kind of a nebulous term. Like, okay, what does that mean? And that's what my emails are about, like what that means in the trenches, on the ground, where the rubber meets the road, inside my relationship with my wife, inside my home with my relationship with my kids, in my community, and in the world. And so on the 20th, there's a full moon, the 20th of September, I'm doing a full moon ceremony live on Zoom, which will give people a visceral sense without actually physically being there. It's almost like being there. I've done many of these, and people are like, I can almost smell the fire and the sage and feel what it feels like to be on the rock and on the earth. So I know it's a potent physical experience, a visceral experience. And that's going to segue into a series that I'm offering that I haven't even named yet, but it's all coming in. It's like these pieces are dropping in one at a time. And what I will say is this: for the thrust of my work, consistently, the through line, the centerpiece is connection to source, deepening and strengthening your connection.
Yeah.
And ways to do that, practices to deepen that, and get some of the noise out of the field.
Uh-huh.
And then there's really 4 cornerstones around that. If that's the center, the 4 cornerstones are trust, surrender, forgiveness, and gratitude. And doing deep dives in those areas, deep dives.
Nice.
Again, not to just overlay more information, but to really open an inquiry into each of those arenas and to see where they're present, where they're not, and how those things, because how they, I was gonna say, how they live for us in our daily lives. Because I think these are essential elements going forward. But also, before you lay a foundation in, you've got to do some excavating also. What's been laid down since before we were born, our cultural conditioning, as Don Miguel Ruiz says, our domestication, the fear, the judgment, the unforgiveness. It's our culture, you know, more for me. Let me make sure I take care of my own, and, you know, the American way,
Yeah.
rugged independence, you know, like that. It's like we're interdependent.
Right.
And I know I'm not telling you anything new, and I'm certainly don't believe I'm telling anybody who's listening anything new,
Yeah.
but to bring these things home in a really fundamental way, you know, like I indicate downward on the earth at the fire. It's a level playing field, and in sacred space, because inside sacred space, we avail ourselves of something that in ordinary time and space we just aren't as present to. And inside of sacred space, miracles happen.
Right.
Just that's my
I
experience.
love that. I love what you're saying about the center
Mhm.
is our spirit. And then we have trust and forgiveness and surrender. And
We lay those things in around our connection. You know, I use this example, kind of a metaphor. You know, the pie of life with this, with each of the segments, you know, finances, family, recreation, spirituality, like that. I'm looking at the pie and I'm like, that's not right. There's something, it's like the 4 food groups. This is faulty. It's more like a bun pan. In the center, that center space is your connection to spirit, your connection to source, you know, to God, whatever you call that power. And then all the rest of your life comes off of that.
Right.
It's not an equal portion. It's the central portion.
Well, you know, I'm very visual. So you say butt pan and I start to laugh because there's a hole in the butt
Yeah.
pan
You
in
can
the
pound
middle,
cake.
right? And so that's why things fall apart in the surrounding areas, because there's a hole in the middle.
And we've neglected. See, in my bun pan
That's
analogy,
why
the
we're so
whole is,
hungry.
yeah, yeah. My bun pan analogy, the whole is not an empty space. It is a rich, charged space. It is our vertical connection to
Yeah.
our source, to the
Yeah.
intelligence of that
Yeah.
which our communication link.
Yeah.
We are receiving and sending channels with a direct link to the intelligence that created us. And we have to nourish and maintain and nurture that connection, or
Yeah.
else it grows weak. And then we go to it in times of despair and trouble and distress, like, oh my God, help me. You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, you start praying. Do it when you're calm and you're, you know, content and you're warm and you got your coffee or whatever, you're comfortable, and strengthen that connection every day.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
message over and over. That's just my message, because it seems ironic. It seems like it's a paradox that that's what's neglected. But look around us in our culture. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Neglect. You see it in the suicide rates in teenagers, the failing of marriages, the people falling away from their faith, the issues we see on the world stage in our country and in the world. Everywhere is evidence of that, of a lack of trust, an unwillingness to surrender, a depth of gratitude that somehow is missed, and a forgiveness of the way that we see the world. Forgiving the way we see the world. And when you're in the present moment, there's nothing to forgive.
Exactly.
It's paradoxical, but there's nothing to forgive. But it doesn't, and forgiveness is a powerful force.
It is.
Utilized in this life, because it leads us back to God. It helps us to reestablish that connection with God and with each other.
Yeah.
I'm not judging you. I'm not finding fault with you. I'm not hiding where I actually think you're wrong and I'm right, you know, or whatever we do like that. You know,
Right. Right.
I get
Wow.
all worked up. I get all worked up when I start talking about this, you know, a little
It's
bit.
so,
Yeah.
I hear you. I feel the same. I'm right there with every word that you're saying. There's not one thing that I would challenge at all, because I mean, even just being an interview, I wouldn't want to, because I believe exactly what you're talking about is what works, is what people are looking for. And when they find it, they are so grateful. They everything they want and have been wanting starts to be showered on them. Taking one step toward God, then God takes 1,000 steps toward you.
Yeah. But that one step,
It's a biggie.
everything. Yes. It is. It's a biggie,
It's
you know,
a
because
biggie.
our culture has conditioned us in the belief that we are separate from God.
Yeah.
It does everything it can to tell us. I'm talking about our church
Uh-huh.
with a capital C. I mean, you know, I don't have anything against religion. I'm just saying, you go back, and you don't have to go back very far. We are separate from God. I don't know if we fell, you know, from the garden, whatever the case,
I
what
don't know
the
that either.
cosmology is.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is about how we're not, but it's already been deeply embedded within us that we are, that there's a stain upon our soul, that there's only one way to remove that stain.
Yeah.
And I happen to not believe that. Respectfully, humbly.
Respectfully, absolutely.
And
And
yeah,
yeah.
my work, you know, it's like my personal, here's how it's lived for me for most of my life. And I'm going to fast forward to the last 10 years. I wanted my own direct experience of spirit, uncontaminated, untainted by any man. I want my own direct experience. I mean, I was adamant, I was vehement about that.
Oh my
And
God, that's exactly what I did.
yeah, and it drove me to the woods. It drove me to the fire. It drove me to it drove me. And then something came through me, you know, this ceremony moved through me that I share with people. It's like, this is the way. This is the way.
This is the way.
Not the way. This is the way. This is my way. And when I work with people, I'm certainly like not saying, do this like this, do like this like that, follow my way, and
Yeah,
it'll
this
be
is the only way. Yeah.
I'm like, find your own way. One gentleman I work with, young guy. Now, for me, anybody under 50 is young. Under 40, you know, they're young people. And we were at the fire together, and his wife was with us. And he had moved away from the fire for someone, to get something, more wood or something. And I just looked at her and I said, I've never told him how to do anything. I've never said, this is the way you do this and this is the way you do that. He just watched and learned and made it his own. So he goes home. He has his own ceremony. He has his own fire pit.
Nice.
He does his own practice. And
Nice.
I'm clear, never once did I say do anything like anything. He
Yeah.
just observed and he felt into it and found his own way.
Yeah.
And he's totally empowered to do that for himself.
Nice.
It's a beautiful thing to witness, because I realize that's the essence of my way, or my way of teaching, is just simply modeling,
Uh-huh.
just being
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what have you seen since you've been doing this a little bit, but now you're putting it into a different form? What do you expect the outcome to be for people?
Well, the interesting thing for me is when I ask for feedback about what people are dealing with, there's some common elements of, you know, struggling with self-trust, struggling with how I see the craziness in the world and what do I do. And so I know I'm in the vicinity of people's concerns. I'm in the vicinity of it's the humanity in all of us. So I'm not like looking for like some esoteric question or some arcane something. It's right in front of us. It's right on the ground beneath our feet, if you will. And so, it's the same for me as it is for most people, I believe. I'm looking for a place to stand, a clear place to put a stake in the ground, not as and I use the word arrogant to say, not like some kind of arrogant, declaration, but just to say, I'm putting a stake in the sand right here.
Right. This is
It's
what it
right
means.
And I'm calling resource to myself. I'm establishing my connection. I'm putting up a signal. I'm putting up a clear beacon to say, talk to me and guide me. And I see what I see in my world is that's what people are looking for. Authentic connection, authentic guidance. Because here's the thing. We look out there in the world, we're screwed. You look out there for
If
your
we only
authority.
believe what we see outside of us, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
And to be discerning and to run it through your own filter, because now once we trust ourselves enough, we can trust our own judgment and not go, well, I don't know. The alphabet soup said, no, the president said, my neighbor said, because he knows more than me about these things, whatever the case,
You take that doubt, that internal doubt that always is lurking there, waiting to see evidence to prove that the doubt is more right than the internal compass.
Yeah.
And so when you turn it around and take the divine intelligence first as your compass, you start to look at what's around you and you go, wow, that made me separated. That made me separated. That made me feel separated. That took me away from, and you start to see all the things that contributed to you not being who you truly are, to only being someone that follows a herd or something. I'm not sure, but that is the design that we've been living in, and that's the conditioning. It is hard to break, but once you see it, the way you're helping people to open up, to see it for themselves, you see it and it begins to work with you in a different way where you go, okay, I don't know if I'm going to go there anymore. I don't know if I want to feel separate. What would it feel like if I wasn't separated because of that teaching or that way of doing work or that, thing that I do in my relationship all the time?
Yeah.
What if that felt like a reason for us to come together more? And then your mind gets stimulated around that the non-separation rather than the division. It's pretty sweet. You get so smart.
Careful there. I always, I say, like, I don't know. What do I know? But I know where to go.
Yeah.
I know where to go to access the wisdom, but what do I know?
Yeah.
In my small mind. But what you've just articulated, that's the work. That's the deep work.
Yeah.
We have lots of catchy phrases for things, but then to actually do the thing. Now, I can't think of one catchy phrase right off the top of my head. But what the point of it, they're out there. The point of it is doing that deep work is uncomfortable. You have to examine your thoughts, your beliefs, and then you got to take a break from it too. It's like, it could be exhausting if you're always like engaged like that. So, remember to have fun in the process too. But the point of it is that if we look outside first and think we got to fix what's out there, we got it reversed. We got to look at it first and see where are these places in myself that had me feel separated.
Yeah.
I feel disconnected. I need to reestablish my connection first and foremost. And
Absolutely.
then I find connection in the world. Then I find connection with people in my life. You know, when I'm with somebody and I look them in the eye and it doesn't take long, a split second, they see me seeing them and I see them seeing me, and we blink and it's like, it's over, but we
No.
know it happened, you
Wow.
know. That's a very powerful way to move through the world.
Very.
Connecting with people, and they know I'm safe, and now I know they're safe.
Yeah.
We just created safety for each other,
Yeah.
not to fix it by making, I'm going to do everything I can to make you feel safe.
Yeah.
I'm safe.
No, they do it right.
Yeah.
They do it for themselves. Just like you were saying earlier, they are empowered to do the continuation of their work on
Yeah.
their own
Right.
because they touch that place. Like when you're separated and you start to realize all these different places that you're separated from, or in your life, and then it doesn't work because you can hear the argument internally going, this isn't right, this doesn't feel right,
Mhm.
and oh my God, or I just have to accept this is just the way that it is. And something else, the stirring, the hunger pops up and opens up your mind and goes, wait a minute, maybe I don't have to accept that this is just the way that is. Maybe I'm playing really small and I could open up and start really just questioning, being curious about my world instead of knowing the way that it goes. And then I judge it and then I'm still separated. Oh, gee, whoopee, that was fun. And then then you wonder why you can't go to sleep at night.
Yeah. And it turns out to be not that much fun.
And it's not that much fun after
Yeah.
all. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like everything gets turned around.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you were alluding to earlier about looking out and seeing where, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. What happens now, here's the thing. I have to take my own medicine every day in terms of what I'm speaking to and what I teach or what I share with people. It's not like I read it in a book and here I'm going to deliver the news or something like that.
Right.
And so this process of deepening trust in oneself, for me to deepen trust in myself enough that when I look out, I can feel when something's off. I can feel when something's not right. I don't need anybody to tell me. I don't
Right.
need anybody to validate my sense of things. I
Right.
trust my own internal guidance well enough to go, that's not right.
Yeah.
And that is right. I trust that. I don't trust this.
Yeah.
And it's part of the work.
It's beautiful. So what you're saying then, that people are getting the pillars of your work in different pieces and they get to live it as an experience until
Yeah.
they really embody it.
Yeah. They get it, even if I don't say.
Yeah.
Center is this, the cornerstones are this. Later, actually later, I've gone back and said, let me just describe to you what we've been doing here. And these are the cornerstones and this is the center. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. But I didn't lay it on them first necessarily. I mean, we may have touched it various times, but it goes back to the experiential piece and removing all the information, the blocks, the concepts and such, so that individuals can have the space to have direct experience. Just creating that opportunity for that to happen,
Yeah. There's something in the title that the word cornerstone is probably somewhere in the title of the work.
Actually, yeah, I still play around with the title. And
Yeah.
Cornerstone has been in and out several.
Yeah. I'm getting that really clear. It's like,
Yeah.
is spirit spirit and the cornerstone, or this? Yeah.
Yeah, the byline is like the subtitle is something like Keys to Inner Strength.
Yeah.
is how it feels to me. These are keys to inner strength.
Yeah.
We want inner strength, not weak,
We
egoic.
do.
We want deep spiritual strength. It's our
Exactly.
connection. And
Exactly.
to not cloud it with even terms that would have people go, I don't know about spirit, All right, then let's not use that word.
Okay.
Let's find another word.
All right.
And it's about connection. It's about
So the cornerstones of inner strength,
something like that.
something like that.
Let me write this down.
You're so good with your notebook. I
Oh,
love
man.
it.
Then I got to find my, it's like, I wrote that down somewhere, but
Yeah.
it's in there,
Where did I put it?
which, I want to bring that point up for people. Have a notebook. I have 3. I have a primary journal that goes with, it stays mostly at home, but it goes with me to the fire. It goes with me when I travel sometimes, where I write, this is my communication with spirit that goes in here. Then I have a paper notebook. I call notes to myself, and like our conversations go in here, my calls, everything goes into this notebook, and it's just by date.
Yeah.
And then I have one of those little moleskin books, the little one, 3x5,
Uh-huh.
that I can just put in my pocket. I take with me when I'm working out or just anywhere, and I jot things down because it's like your dreams.
Yeah.
I'll remember, oh, that was so vivid. I'll remember that. And then half hour later, you're like,
What was it?
what was that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Tony Robbins said years ago, he said, a life worth living is worth recording.
Yeah. That's
Really
so
stuck in my
true.
mind. It's like,
Oh, wow.
oh, here's it was already open, my little moleskin,
Oh,
you know.
it's right there.
Yeah.
So when are you going to do this, Tom?
So the
You said
20th,
on the full moon in
yeah,
September,
the
which
20th,
is then
that's
the
the full
next
moon
day is
ceremony.
the equinox,
Equinox is 2 days later on the 22nd.
right?
And I'm going to actually put a totem pole up on our land on that day, the 10-foot totem pole that came into my possession as
Nice.
a symbolic, boy, it's symbolic, big time. And a blessing on the land. And
Beautiful.
so this 4 or 5 part series that I'm going to roll out will come in October. So I have no time to spare, really. But it seems like the pieces only come in as I move one piece on. We were talking about this earlier. I got to move on I got to make room for this other stuff to come in, because my guidance, it's not that they're being stingy with me. They're just like, get it out the door, and the
Yeah.
more will follow.
Right.
So
Right.
again, back to trusting the voice that speaks to me, that speaks to you, will not go silent when we need it most.
Yeah. Boy,
That if
that's
you
so true.
keep the flow coming in, like they've often said to me, I've said, what am I going to tell them? I don't know what to say. And they say, don't worry, we'll tell you what to say.
Oh,
Get ready.
yay.
The classic Moses story when burning bush, he's like, well, can't you send somebody else? Not me. I have a lisp. I don't talk well. Who am I going to tell them sent me? Who should I, like, what if they don't believe me? And God's like, dude, I got you covered all the way.
That's exactly my experience when I first started teaching the Oneness Awakening weekend. And I
Mm.
called it a retreat because I literally asked people from Friday night to Sunday night if they would actually honor themselves by being in silence. And then the whole time I'm facilitating it, but I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? You're here, right? You're here, right? And they always say, don't worry, don't worry. Because the mind is used to being a planner and an organizer and a really good student that way. which is good, but mastering the moment is what it's about. Reading the room, getting
Yeah.
a temperature of what's actually happening in the
Oh,
energy field, because the course is planned out, but you don't have to use it as it's planned. You
yeah.
can use it according to what the energetic is and move it around so that it really goes in a lot deeper.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. I think any seasoned facilitator would probably really completely agree with what you just said. And boy, to be present and then to it's not just what I have to deliver, it's what people are asking. The people that are in the room are literally co-creating this event with you, with me. And that's
Exactly.
what they're calling out. When I was in practice, I was a chiropractor, this for 30 years I was in practice.
Yeah.
And what I discovered is when there was a listening, I would say things that I'm like, where is this coming from? But it's good.
Who said that?
Yeah. I wished I recorded it. And when there wasn't listening, I almost had nothing to say. So
Yeah.
I learned, actually, it's kind of made a general rule for myself that if they're asking, tell, and if they're not asking, don't tell.
Yes.
Don't tell people what they're not asking for, because they're not going to hear it anyway. So
Exactly.
spare them and spare yourself,
Yeah.
but then be prepared to speak into the listening that's ready and that's asking.
Yeah. And then you're going to say what you're hearing
Mhm.
instead of what you thought was the right thing to say.
Yeah. And again,
Totally different.
yeah.
Totally different energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, people can expect some great outcomes then if they hang out with you for these 5 weeks.
It's life-changing. I know that to be so. And where it leads, the series will be via Zoom. It'll be live. I'll probably do most of them from the fire. And I want to keep the time short enough and respectful enough of people's time that they will take the information in and not tune out after a certain length of time. So it'll be in bite-sized chunks.
Right.
And then where that leads, could lead to a 3-day live retreat, virtual retreat. But certainly, I make myself available for small group and one-on-one coaching. It's what I call deep coaching. It's
Right.
guiding, but it's going to those deep places. And yeah, I've been a reluctant coach. Like, I didn't want to give myself that moniker tag, but I mean, that's kind of what people understand in the vernacular, the vocabulary.
Yeah, they do now.
Mhm.
I spent the first 8 or 10 years explaining how coaching was not about sports. The first, when I first started.
Yeah.
What does a coach do?
Yeah.
If you don't do sports, what do you do? It was just hilarious. And I'm so glad the consciousness finally caught up and shifted, so I don't have to spend my time explaining that anymore.
Yeah. But I think it's changing again, where coach is starting to morph into something else. And I believe, for me, that's why I prefer it, truth be told, guide. I'm a guide.
Yeah, that's what I call myself too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
guide people. I show them a way, or point out a way, or we engage in a conversation I'm all ears,
Yeah.
witnessing. You know this too. It's witnessing people and really listening them into existence.
Right.
When I hear someone,
I wanted to touch on that too, actually, because the way your presence is about listening is really, really beautiful. And people, that's part of the magic of who you are as a guide. And could you explain it a little bit? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So back to taking my own medicine, where I learned by listening. And it was at the fire, just the fire in me. And I listened deeply, listened with the deepest desire to know and understand. And I journaled a lot. I have stacks of journals anyway, I listened. And so now when I work with people, the listening that I was granted, I give to them. They also grant me their listening, which my guide said to me, to be listened is a sublime privilege. Like for spirit, for us to listen to spirit, for spirit is like some kind of ecstasy, a blissful experience is how I understand it for them, just as it is for us. When someone really listens us and gets us,
Absolutely.
like, oh my gosh, that's what I do. And I don't call it just listening. I call it to listen someone,
Yeah.
listen them into existence. My ears sort of go like those radio dishes in Puerto Rico, searching for a signal from outer space. I'm like all ears for what they're saying, what they're not saying. And when I hear someone even begin to speak in a way where I can hear that they're calling themselves, they're speaking themselves into existence in a way that they never have before, I get my basket of sage and I hand it to them and I say, take a pinch of sage and hold that. And I'm listening now, witnessing you, and then put it to the fire. Because I say the fire is listening too.
Uh-huh.
I always indicate to the fire.
Yeah.
The fire is listening. So, and one of my guys said, I now know what it means to be witnessed. I understand how powerful that is. Because I've told him over the year that we've been together, I witness you. I listen to you like nobody has ever listened to you. And he's like, he totally agrees,
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We cover a lot of ground in a short period of time.
We sure do. That's because we're on the same page, and that page just wants to be turned into us. All I want to do, and like you too, is just be there for people so that they do see themselves the way I see them, the way you see them.
In the end, that's all it's about, is helping people to see themselves more clearly.
Yeah.
When that happens and I'm present to it, I'm like, oh, it doesn't get any better than this.
Doesn't get any better. This is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, congratulations on your next adventure. And I hope a lot of people will sign up, and I'm sure they will. Where are you going to put something out on your newsletter list, or how?
Yeah, it'll go out through my newsletter. I'll make sure you get all the info and you can share it with your people.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd be honored to have anyone from your world come and join me.
Okay.
So
I love to share about your work.
Yeah, thank you.
It's so sacred. We got it in the same way. I mean, it's just so, what a beautiful mirror.
Yeah.
We are, and that we are, the masculine and feminine walking in the same way. Just really amazing.
In a balanced way.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Very powerful. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, sweetheart, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
and I am really grateful, and I'll look forward to our next one, and we'll see what pops out for us next time.
There'll be plenty, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shauna.
Bye.
Bye.